This demo will show you how to set up JFrog Artifactory and start using it in less than 1 minute. JFrog Artifactory is a universal artifact repository manager. It fully supports software packages created with any language or technology. It works with different build tools, CI servers, and packaging systems. After requesting an Artifactory license or as part of an upgrade notification, you will get an email from JFrog containing a link to a special bin tray page with Artifactory downloads. Let's start the Artifactory Pro standalone version download. This page is powered by JFrog Bin Tray, a modern, feature-rich distribution platform. For example, you can use Bin Tray to get notifications when new versions of Artifactory are released. After the download is complete, we'll extract the downloaded file. Now, let's start up Artifactory. First, just run the artifactory.bat file or the artifactory.sh file that's under the bin directory. And go! There are more ways to install and run Artifactory: RPM, Debian, Mac Homebrew, Docker Container, and more. Now that Artifactory is up and running, let's quickly set up the required configuration for our use. Let's open our browser to the Artifactory homepage. When first launched, the Artifactory setup wizard will pop up. This wizard will easily walk us through the setup process. The first step is to provide a license key. Simply paste it here. This can be either a trial or your permanent license. We will skip the password change and keep the original one. We will also skip the proxy configuration, which is used for advanced intranet configuration and can be revised later on if necessary. Now we can choose which types of repositories we'd like to set up. As a universal repository manager, Artifactory supports a great list of technologies out of the box. We'll choose Debian. And done! We need to configure Artifactory to be used as a Debian package repository. The setup wizard creates two Debian repositories in Artifactory. A local repository called Debian Local, where you can deploy and serve your own Debian packages. And a remote repository called Debian Remote, which is useful for proxying other Debian repositories such as archive-ubuntu.com. You can, of course, modify them or create Debian repositories later on, using the repository's administration pages. Now it's time to configure apt-get to work with Artifactory. For setting your tools to work with Artifactory, the Set Me Up button is your best friend. The pop-up window gives you all the instructions and valuable configuration snippets. It is context-sensitive and shows the relevant information based on the focus location in the tree browser. In order to use Artifactory as a source for Debian packages, we need to add it to the list of repositories. We can do this with the add apt repository command or by editing the sources.list file. We'll copy the command that adds our newly created Debian remote repository to the sources list file. Let's create a new sources list to be sure that we're using Artifactory as the only source for our Debians. Now we can add Debian Remote. The distribution will be trusty and the component main, as this serves the main repository for our software. Now let's update the list of packages. And try to install Git as an example. The installation was successful, and we can see that the package was downloaded from Artifactory. Let's look at the Artifactory cache after the installation. Here we can see the cached Debian file. It's time to put our local repository to work. Let's deploy a Debian package to it. You can do this via curl, other REST commands, or by using the Artifactory UI. We'll use the Artifactory UI. For example, let's take Cassandra Debian distribution. As many popular Debian packages, including Apache projects, Cassandra is distributed from bin tray and not from the main Ubuntu repository. Naturally, the right approach would be adding a remote repository to proxy Bintray's Apache repository, but for the sake of this demo, we'll just deploy the Cassandra Debian into a local repository. Think of Cassandra as one of the Debian packages you build and want to make available from Artifactory. After uploading the file, we'll provide the path for the package. Usually, Debian archives reside in the pool directory. Selecting Deploy as Debian artifact provides a simple way to add the needed metadata to the file, like distribution, component, and architecture. This information is needed for Artifactory to successfully generate its index files. Once the file is deployed, we can see it in the local repository. You can notice the Debian indexing data. Let's use the Set Me Up button again to configure Ubuntu to retrieve Debian packages from the local repository. Here we can see the deployment instructions. That's the command line version of the file deploy we performed earlier. Note how the distribution, component, and architecture information are provided using what we call the matrix params. We'll copy the command that adds a new line into the sources list file. It's almost the same as the one we ran for our main remote repository, but this time it has Debian local in the URL. We'll use private as the component name, since that's the component value we used when we deployed the Cassandra package. Let's examine the sources list file. As expected, it now has two entries, the remote and local repositories in Artifactory. Updating the index will retrieve the latest indexes from Artifactory. Now apt is aware of the Cassandra package and we can install it. This warning alerts us that the Cassandra package can't be authorized. This is because we didn't sign the package. This may be okay for this screencast or when sharing packages in a team of developers that trust each other, but you should always sign the packages you release for other purposes. Artifactory has a built-in Debian package signing capability. Cassandra was successfully downloaded and installed from an Artifactory local repository. Also notice the last downloaded time for the Cassandra Debian package in Artifactory. This concludes our Debian setup screencast. You can use Artifactory to work with any build technology like Maven, Gradle, Ivy, Conan, and Ant, and manage your artifacts for all your technologies. Just to name a few, Java, Docker, Debian, NuGet, RubyGems, NPM, and many more. Artifactory also offers tight integrations with Jenkins, Hudson, TeamCity, Bamboo, and any other CI server. This concludes our introductory Artifactory setup. You are welcome to visit our user guide to discover more features and our YouTube channel for additional screencasts.